Hello, welcome back to the channel. So I thought that this week's video would be a bit of a cool video just because I have had the fortune of sitting on audition panels for drama schools for their first round auditions this year, which are self-tape auditions. So I just wanted to give you guys a little bit of an insight into what I'm thinking is really working with those self-tapes and other things that need to be looked at and improved upon. So if you are one of those people who is auditioning for drama schools and you haven't sent in your self-tapes yet, this might be really useful for you. Now, this is just a disclaimer because I cannot speak for every single audition panel member in the UK for all of the drama schools. Everybody is completely individual, which is why you have multi-person panels so that we all kind of come together. We have our own ideas, we have our own tastes and what we think is working. So we come to a unanimous decision as a collective. It's no one person deciding on who progresses to a recall round or who gets offered a place at drama school. So everything that I'm going to talk about today is my own preference. It's things that I think will actually be really good for you to know when you are self-taping for drama schools, but they do not necessarily mean that you will gain some level of success or some level of failure off the back of them. It's just things that you might not have thought about in the past, and it might actually kind of trigger something in you that can be really useful for your self-tapes going forward. So with that said, let's take a look at some of them. So the first thing that I'm seeing that I do not recommend that anybody does for their self-tapes, I'm seeing a lot of people reading their speeches, actually reading the text off the camera. So they haven't actually got properly off book with their material before they do their self-tape. And what it's reading as is that your eyes are just getting really glazed over, you're starting to actually kind of scan like a teleprompter, and it looks incredibly untruthful. And what you need to remember is that the camera is actually some kind of magnifying glass. We can see so much more of your thought process, what your eyes are doing, than we would do if you're actually in person. So you might think that you're getting away with it, but I assure you we can see it. And it's not just one person that I'm seeing doing that. I've seen several people applying with their self-tapes to drama school and they are reading off the text which is just off the camera. You think that you're kidding me. You think that you're pulling the wool over my eyes, and I can see it a mile away. And it might be for multiple reasons. It might be that you submitted your application and you got a really quick turnaround for a self-tape deadline and you didn't have enough time to get off book, or that you just didn't put in the proper preparation work. But either way, it really reads like you have just not bothered to get off book whatsoever. And it takes you out of the creative process of actually living and embodying that character in the moment. And your face goes a little bit dead when you're reading off of a script. So for self-tapes going forward, do not do that. Another thing that I'm seeing that in my opinion is a bit of a negative is people filming in portrait. Now look, it's not TikTok, it's not Instagram. The panels that will be assessing your work will be playing your footage back in landscape. So it will be wider than it is taller. So if you are filming it in portrait, it being narrower than it is taller, then you will actually appear a lot smaller within the frame, which means that we're not going to be able to see your faces clearly. And that's important because we want to see an accurate representation of your capability of your work as an actor. And if we can't really see your face very much, then that's going to be a problem. It also means that you as the actor are really limited on what you can do physically within the frame. It means that you're a bit limited when it comes to physical impulse and actually following through with creative choices in a physical way. Because if it is narrower than it is taller, you run the risk of tumbling out of a frame, and therefore we can't see the material, can't actually see your performance. So going forward, I would always recommend shoot in landscape. Now I know that there are a couple of drama schools that don't mind if you shoot it in portrait or landscape, but the vast majority do ask for you to shoot it in landscape. And that is the industry standard for sending across a self-tape. So you might as well get that practice in and just turn your phone from portrait to landscape in order to shoot your self-tapes. And the last thing that I think is a bit of a negative when it comes to your self-tape auditions for drama school is what I'm seeing is a lack of creative and imaginative choices. I'm seeing a bit of a trend, not across the board. There are some people that are doing incredibly well, but I am seeing a little bit of a trend of people just kind of essentially learning the lines and doing a line reading, which in my opinion is a bit of a wasted exercise. What the audition panels actually want to see is you having a point of view, a creative points of view with the material that you're bringing to life. We don't want to see you making really tame choices or no choices at all. We want to see that you've got an opinion and an understanding and a stance on who the character is, what the relationship with the other person is, what you think of the circumstance, how you wish to use the language. Creativity, imagination, and curiosity are the hallmarks of what it means to be a good actor. So even if you are somewhat kind of off the mark in terms of those creative choices, if they don't necessarily make complete sense, at least you're making them. I would much rather someone go really strong and wrong with their creative choices than not make any at all. So now that we've got the negatives out of the way, let's talk about some of the positives that I've been witnessing from this year's first round self-tape auditions. So I'm seeing some people making some really good choices when it comes to the actual material that they're choosing for their contemporary speeches. One of the things I always encourage my coaching clients to do is not choose speeches that are really dramatic and edgy and kind of involve a lot of heightened emotion, but rather choose speeches that are close to them, that are simple, that are truthful. And I've actually seen a trend of people doing the latter in this year's self-tapes, which is a really, really good thing because I can actually see you behaving and existing truthfully within a moment. It strips back all of the kind of pomp and ceremony and the kind of bells and whistles of heightened emotion and screaming and shouting and crying, because at the stage that you're at going through 3 years worth of training, those kinds of elements are going to really expose you. You don't have the training or the process behind you for you to actually be able to jump into a speech completely cold, but then find that emotional kind of heightened state. I still see professional actors struggling to go from 0 to 0 when it comes to heightened emotion. And if those people who have experience and training behind them struggle with that, then you are definitely going to be exposed at the stage that you're at. So it's best to actually just avoid those speeches altogether and concentrate on those simple, truthful speeches that are closer to you within your age, your lived experience, your background, all of that. So that's a really, really good positive that I'm seeing so far. The next really, really good thing that I'm seeing that I find quite exciting actually is people speaking classical language with confidence. Now, I don't know if this is the school system or the colleges that you're all going to, but I've seen a kind of increased trend of people really owning the classical language, whereas before people would see it as really intimidating and really kind of overbearing and quite complicated. I'm seeing people actually using it and speaking it as if they would in fact choose those particular words to describe what's going on and to express themselves in the moment. It's starting to come across very kind of casual and conversational, that people are using the words and finding organic thought as they go through the process of the speech. And yeah, of course, you still get that trend of people kind of doing Shakespeare speech or just speaking the poetry, and it's all sounding very romanticized and dramatic. But across the board, I'm seeing a lot of people actually just using the text in a really, really truthful way. So I want that to be maintained. And another thing that I'm seeing that I just think is really refreshing and really lovely to see, and again, it's a personal preference thing, and it won't kind of be the thing that gets you a recall or gets you a place at drama school or not. What I'm really enjoying seeing are people choosing classical speech characters of the gender that they do not identify with. Now, yes, the industry is changing and shifting and morphing, and you get a lot more gender blind or gender bended productions these days, but across the board, we are still kind of subscribing to gender-based norms, especially when it comes to casting. It's just one of those things. So your drama school auditions, especially for your classical speeches, can be a really lovely opportunity for you to explore a character that you find really fascinating that you wouldn't necessarily get the chance to during training or when you go out into the industry, because it goes against the gender that you perhaps identify with. It means that you're bringing a fresh, new, different perspective to the work itself and to the speech and to the character. So don't be afraid when it comes to your classical speeches of actually kind of expanding your horizons a little bit and not thinking, okay, well, I identify as female, therefore I cannot be Brutus or Macbeth, or, you know, you are able to do those things as long as you can fully embody them and they have some element of understanding and lived experience from your own point of view that you can identify with, that you can link yourself to. So there we go. That is a rundown of what I am seeing from first round self-tapes for 2023 so far. You guys are doing really, really well. I'm really enjoying seeing your work. Keep up the good work, keep going, and I hope that this was useful. And if it was, just make sure that you click like and that you subscribe to the channel. And if you do have auditions coming coming up and you are self-taping and you're kind of at sea with it, then get in touch. I'm going to put all of the kind of links to my website, my social media. I offer one-to-one coaching, and if you are interested in taking that up, if you're kind of feeling like you need some clarity, you need some guidance before you go in for your auditions, or if you're getting recalls through, then congratulations first of all. But if you want to take your performance from self-tape level up to what you were going to be expected to do in an in-person recall, then get in touch. I would love to work with you. But until next time, thank you so much. Bye.